Can you just confirm you can see my screen? We good? Excellent.
Yep.
So basically, product management in Saudi Arabia, the views and lessons from an expat. This is what we're doing, and there's a few key words here. But before I start that, I always do it with these presentations. I always put a disclaimer down, and this is very important, and it looks like a terms and conditions of acceptance here, but please, yeah, so the views here is expressed on my views. It doesn't represent the views of the past or the present organizations that I work for, or have actually been privileged to work for. My views expressed here, has definitely biases in it, so I want to acknowledge with all of you guys. I'm extremely passionate about what I do, which means I'm extremely opinionated, which means that sometimes when I talk about product, it does evoke some emotion with people. So I just want to put that out there for everybody to understand. And if there is truly somebody that doesn't accept this, please let me know right now. Otherwise, I'm going to continue.
Okay.
So let me zoom in here. So basically, my whole belief system around product is based on this diagram right here. And I'm using Miro, as we all know, and I want to put it on there. And even though this is simple, and we think about this is actually a massively dynamic and complex one-liner. So firstly, product management, what we do, what we work with, is actually not fitting into anything at the moment. In actual fact, that's the purpose of product management. Specifically in the technology space, we need to understand that we are sitting between the business, the user, and technology, right? That is where we are. And also we need to understand that because of that, product management at a truly product-led organization should actually be a department on its own in the organization, right? What I can tell you is over the 20 years that I've worked, my department that I work with has sat in business, in technology, in marketing. At one company, it was in operations. And I think that is the very key thing to remember here, is that that's almost, in my mind, the golden aim of where we want to be as product managers. That's a primary thing, is we want to bring that balance between what the business wants, what the user, I almost want to say at this stage, expect, and what we can do with technology, right? And that in itself is an extremely difficult thing to do. And I think this is important to know. And that sentence right there, that was never there 20 years ago when I started. In actual fact, this is something that I took and almost created for myself. And the reason is quite simple, not to use at work, but when my children were born, my oldest, I think when he became 5 or 6, he's like, "Dad, what do you do?" And what did I do? I explained to him, "Oh, Dad sits between the business and the user and technology, and we prioritize." And literally my son looked at me and he went, "Dad, what do you do?" Right? and that is almost a very humbling thing, because I was doing this for I think at that stage almost 13, 14 years, and I thought I was the expert at what I did. And my 5-year-old son, who I wanted to be proud of what his dad does, he couldn't understand what I did. And I thought, no, it's probably something wrong with my explanation here. And then I talked to my wife, and my wife's like, "Yeah, Francois, I don't even know really what you do." And then it became almost this immensely humbling moment in my life, where I went, does the business and the people that pay me know what I do? And that, I think, is a very important thing to remember here. Our aim here is to build the right thing at the right time for the right user to achieve the right business outcome in simplified things. And that is extremely difficult, and that goes to actually the purpose, our purpose, in a more detailed perspective. And this is, again, something that we need to understand the purpose. And because of that, let me just quickly run through this. So effectively, in a more detailed explanation for product management, it is, we need to identify, build, and scale the right products that create user value, as we all know, deliver sustainable commercial outcomes for our business, right? That's the 3 Venn diagram turn into this. also, more importantly, that is not said, but it is in our blood as product managers, we are actually turning ambiguity into some form of clarity. And we try and use the resources to deliver the resource into some form of outcome, right? So again, even though we sit in the middle, it is our job to identify, build, and scale all of this, and to actually not, again, I don't want to jump in my own toolkit, but it is actually predominantly to remove ambiguity and get clarity in those three areas. And more importantly, and I didn't put it there, it's also actually to create that balance in between. And then ultimately as well, part of that is product management is actually a probability play more often than anything. And we are trying to increase the probability of success. We cannot guarantee success. And that's very important when you think and when you deal and when you approach this. And typically the strategies that we do want to use is we want to filter out noise, we want to reduce waste, we want to reduce risk, and we want to increase our ROI. Now, this is something that as a product manager is very difficult to do. Your job is to connect and influence because you're in the intersection of this, and even more so, more often than not, you are actually not owning anything. And I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges that I saw in the industry is initially people go, hey, you're the product owner, you are the CEO of your product, you are in charge of the vision, and people get all excited because now, you know, I wouldn't say important, but I've got this clear ownership of something. And then you get into the job and you get requirements from the business and you go, yeah, that doesn't really fit into the product vision. And then somebody tells you, yeah, buddy, just do that, right? Then you realize, how can I be the CEO of a product if I can't even change a requirement, right? Then you talk to your engineering team and you know, as the CEO of the product, we want to do this. And then they go, well, technology, that's not feasible. I'm very sorry. And then you go, okay. So that is very important. And it's not just about getting the requirements as well. It's about allowing the influence that you need to put there, use your influence to move the needle forward, right? Without effectively any real ownership or any real power per se, right? And I think that is something that everybody needs to understand. I think that is something that makes this job extremely difficult for them. And then even more so, one of my beliefs here is that in certain cases, and this might be a little bit controversial, companies, there is no need for product management, right? And due to some of the people, and again, I'm looking at the agile industry per se, I'm looking at, you know, guys selling courses. In certain cases, the way of doing product management and agile gets kind of forced on an organization. And that is also something that is really not helping all of us, right? We product managers exist, and I mean, this is what I want to focus on here. I almost want to highlight this. We exist not to build product. We exist because in the craft of building product, we are dealing with complexity in organizations. We're dealing with humans that are political, and we're dealing with technology that is expensive, right? And also in the industry that we're in, and this is really important for the young people in this call to know, we try as product managers, as product people, to prevent the randomness, disorder, and uncertainty, while we actually acknowledge and accept that we will always have randomness, disorder, and uncertainty. And that is almost one of the biggest dichotomies of product for me, right? Because it's, and I'll get now to the more controversial part of this conversation. It is not to actually build product, right? And which if you really want to think about that, I'm maybe firing myself right now, right? Why am I? What's my reason for existence here, or our reason for existence? our main purpose here is to be the connection in this world of chaos, while understanding we are in a world of chaos, right? And I think that is almost one of the biggest things for me in the time that I've worked to try and understand, because and then also, just ironically, to make it a little bit more interesting, because I'm an ex-software engineer, typically my approach and thinking is that of a little bit more structured engineering, right? While we are in chaos. So this is, I feel, what's the purpose, right? We need to, and again, ambiguity, and we need to work in the level of probability, and we need to accept that there is chaos. And ultimately, even though we're in tech, this is a human play. We are working with people doing the work for us. Maybe one day AI will really come along and do all the work for us. And I know people are quite worried about that. That's great, because right now, if we look at talking to AI, it's like talking to a person. We tell them what to do and they do it. I think we will probably be the last guy standing surviving the AI overtake, but yeah. So let me quickly jump into the really controversial parts. I have to start here.
I'm praying that we're the last people, Francois.
Huh? Look, let's see. So something we need to understand is, and this is the key thing. If our purpose is to connect and be the glue, why do we keep on hearing that we're the owner of value? And I want to work it maybe backwards. So if we look at product as a craft, we are the young kids on the block, right? Project management is way older than us, right? Like we can see here, it started off in, the 1950s, let's give or take. Engineering is way older than us. I mean, we can go to the first bridge that was built. That was maybe 2,000, 3,000 years ago. There's people from Egypt, 5,000 years ago, 6,000, 10,000 years ago, the pyramids were building. If we look at software engineering, the first computer was effectively created, roughly 1940, 1930. The first personal computer got popularized in the 80s. So even the software engineering aspect of this area is older than us. If we look at the business analysis concept, it's older than us. And then the interesting thing with the history of product management, and I would encourage you guys to actually read up on this, it is roughly 90 years old, and it wasn't even created in technology. It was created by, let me just get the name right, a guy from Procter and Gamble called, and he created it in 1930. He wrote a paper based on the brand method, I believe, and and the problem was that this guy worked in the soap business, and brand manager, and the problem he saw is we need a person who wakes up every day thinking about this brand, right? And it was effectively, it had its roots in marketing, yeah. So even that itself, even that itself is older than us. Now, why is that important? Why am I bringing that up? So I just quickly want to lock here. I apologize about that. Why is that important? That as the newest kid on the block, we came in, the industry came in and said, PM arrived the latest, but we became the strategic owner of value, All you other guys, what you've been doing for longer than us is effectively not optimal. And, you will focus on output and delivery requirements. We are the guys now that will give you value. And I think that, in my humble opinion, is one of the biggest lies of product management. And it's one of the biggest chains around our neck that is pulling us down. It's our biggest anchor. Because at the end of the day, and this is the and I almost want to, I mean, I sometimes don't want to say scream it at people, but we do not own value. Most organizations believe that business owns value. And even if you go deeper, even if we go deeper, most of these guys cannot articulate the value, right? And this almost puts us as product people in this space where, what is the point of product management then, right? If we do not own the value, we're not the CEOs, we're trying to connect the glue, we're trying to, but at the end of the day, even the people that we're trying to help in this area, they don't even acknowledge us, right? They don't see our value here. And to me, that's the answer, as simple as that. Product management exists to prevent the business from making expensive mistakes. Simple as that. Very simple. And we are not the value owner, we are the glue. And I understand there's people on this call that maybe have more experience than me. Or I understand there's people that maybe their first year in and they've heard this. And what you need to understand is that in the greater timeline of things, we are still understanding what product management is. And I am 100% acknowledging, and inshallah this will happen, that there will be somebody in this call 20 years from now that has a better understanding of what I'm saying here and does a presentation to the next round of people coming in. That's the only way for this industry to grow. That's the only way for us to move forward. And that's the only way for all of us to get better, right? So effectively, I just want to recap. Our timeline, we're the shortest in this. You are effectively defining this industry while you're working, right? That's a very key thing. And some of this will be right, some of this will be wrong. Like I said at the beginning, there's going to be some biases. And then ultimately, I believe product management is a team sport, right? This is very important. And also, for people on this call, people with me, product is not for everyone. In actual fact, I wake up once every, I don't want to say once a week, but quite often where I wake up in the morning and go, damn, I don't think this is for me. I think I made a career choice a mistake. I think I should have probably just had a coffee shop somewhere or something. And that's fine, right? But what I want to do, and let me just zoom out just so you can see the whole. What I want to say is that if it's not for you, then it's fine. I get that, and maybe try and find a place where, I don't want to say do something else, but if it's not for you, all of these frustrations, all of these challenges, everything that you see here is really gotta make it difficult for you. And again, I don't want people to be in careers that they hate. I don't want people to work with people that they don't like. I want to be very honest when I say this. You need to accept that we are in randomness, we are in disorder, we are in chaos, we are the newest kids on the block. You are gonna be challenged, and if that's not something that actually gets you up in the morning, then I would say rather reconsider where you are. So I'm gonna take a pause here. Are there any really hard questions that you want to ask me right now?
Can I break the rule and start first?
Of course. I expected it.
Okay. So my question is, I
Yeah.
like the point where you mentioned that we are defining the industry.
Yes.
But do you think that it is destined for product people to be the underappreciated child of an organization?
Oh, my friend, yes, and I think that is one of the challenges, right? And I almost want to take that back, and that is the burden of leadership, right? I come from South Africa. I played rugby. I captained rugby teams. I don't know, people, please don't drop when I say this. I'm an Al Nassr supporter. Yeah, in the King of Saudi Arabia. That's the burden of leadership, and this is a leadership area. This is an important area, and this area nobody understands. And it's as simple as this to me, Noah. Your product team succeeds, it's them. They fail, it's you. Simple as that. And that's the point I'm making, is this is baked into what we are doing. As simple as that. And if you don't like that, if you feel, then this is not the industry for you. This is not the place for you. Now, Will it be appreciated down the line? Will it be, I cannot look into the future. I hope so. I really do hope so. But again, like I said, and this is gonna come back into the next points, the people that are not appreciating this is the people that might not understand it, because they're the people that's been operating in project management with rigid software engineering, with business analysis people longer than been working on this with us. So really good question. I hope that answered you.
It did, Francois. We do have another question.
Sure.
Muhammad Iraqi, welcome, Muhammad. Muhammad can't jump in, he's in a crowded area, but his question is,
what's his question?
Can we give technology circle a broader definition to include multi-dimensional tech science? So the question itself needs another question. That's a really complicated question, Muhammad. I apologize, I don't understand it. Maybe you, Francois, do you want to give
let me just quickly see and read this. Can we give technology circle broader definition include so technology is I don't want to make it very simple, right? If you cannot touch it, it's technology, right? So think about brick and mortar. I walk in and I pick up I'm a can of Monster. This is not technology. In that case, technology is actually encapsulate all of that. And I would actually say that is a really good question, because that is one of the issues that we have here. Is we do live in a very intangible space that is technology. Even right now, and I mean, I'm not hitting anybody, but right now, if I had to ask people what is the definition of technology, it would be very, you jump around. And that's also, I think, a very important thing to understand, is that our space is intangible. It's very difficult to touch, right? Until it goes live into production and you've got users, then suddenly everybody is touching it, and suddenly this almost intangible becomes very tangible. So, Mohammed, I don't know if that answered your question. If it didn't, please let me know.
That's interesting. We're diving into the philosophy of tech, and Muhammad says that answered his question. Okay, we can move on.
Right. So that is the basis of a lot of my thinking, a lot of my understanding. Before I move on to the next thing, I don't see myself in being anywhere else until I see myself in being anywhere else. I don't know, maybe one day I'll have a pizza shop and that sells the best coffee in Saudi. Let's see. So, and I'm just going to dump it there and talk it through. The opportunities and challenges. Now, again, I have to be very honest here. I've been living in Saudi for 5 years. My bias here is that a lot of what I've experienced is in here, and I'm not trying to compare the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to anywhere else, because that would do an injustice, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but this is my take of Saudi Arabia and the product management opportunity. So one thing is this. Sorry.
I'm a bit worried now, Francois. I'm joking.
Done. Why are you worried?
No, I'm joking.
Don't be worried. So the important thing is, until you're here in Saudi, you don't realize that Saudi actually has world-class technology infrastructure, right? Abshire as an identity system is probably one of the best systems in the world. The way the government, and alhamdulillah, I say that alhamdulillah, is pushing these technology things is incredible. You will not see it anywhere. I think this is probably one of the things that blew my mind, right? And again, I need to acknowledge the bias. We as expats sometimes think that there's a big giant desert here, and what can be in the middle of the desert. And ironically, this is something that I also observed because I'm from Africa. People think in Africa we are we're fighting lions and riding on elephants. People outside of Saudi think the Saudis are riding camels, drinking coffee, and I don't know, pumping oil. While you really do get here, there's next level technology, and this is very important to understand that as a product manager, there's certain things in the country that you won't get anywhere that will help you to become more successful. Then the next part of the opportunity in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and this is man, this is, I cannot, there's a clear direction and vision from the top down to not just the country, but to the companies in the country and to the people in the country. And that, as product managers, like I said, if our job is to cut noise, to deliver priority, you know, to have some level of priority, you know, to reduce the risk, that is such a powerful thing that's here. And I think, with all respect, I think people here in Saudi that maybe been here, they don't realize what a powerful opportunity that is to live in a place where you have that clear direction and vision driven from the top down, right? Rather than by CEOs of companies or people or whatever. And I mean, that is one of the things that as a product manager, you need to understand the opportunity around that, and you need to understand how you can utilize that to build your product in your organization, to build your career in your organization. And I'm going to say this, and I know I'm recorded. When I moved here, before I moved here, when I got this opportunity, the first thing I did is I went to go and read Vision 2030. And I was immensely sad afterwards, not because of the vision, but because my own country didn't have something so amazing. And I had to move to another place to get exposure to this. And I think that is one of that opportunity with the technology. I almost want to stop there and say, do not even consider not working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I believe this is the place to be for the next 50 to 100 years because of those two things. And that's a big statement that's being recorded right now. Maybe 50 to 100 years of now, we will see if I was right or wrong. I'm not sure. Then another thing that from opportunity perspective that really, as an expat working in the product area, is that there's 50 people on the call, you know, minus 3 or 4, there's 45 people right now that's willing to spend their Saturday night to learn something from basically a nobody, right? And there is a thirst and drive for knowledge and success here that the closest I've ever seen was probably when I worked with a company in New York, which they're all capitalism, you know, we want to get rich. There's something different here. There's a bigger drive and thirst for knowledge here, but there's definitely a drive here in Saudi that is probably not present anywhere in the world. Now, again, I haven't been anywhere in the world, but since being on the ground here and since talking to the people, since working with the local people here and the expats here, I mean, this is incredible. And then also another massive opportunity for product, and coming back to what product management is that, man, this is truly, I've been, like I said, the past 5 years, Saudi has been opening up, transforming and changing at such a rapid speed that if you want to, I don't want to say add value, and I mean, I want to move away from the value word, but if you want to build product, one of those things that there's opportunities and chances here at this moment in time that you probably won't find anywhere else. Now, that's the good news, right? So that's the good news. That's what's the challenges here. And I put this kind of in red. And again, I'm going to say this with all respect. Saudi Arabia is not the Middle East. Like South Africa is not Africa. Saudi Arabia is not the Middle East. And the problem, one of the biggest challenges for product people that I've seen here is due to, I don't know, maybe the fact that it was a little bit more closed out, maybe the fact that there's a lot of the workforce that hasn't come here. I regularly sit in meetings where we would discuss things and somebody would go, oh, we did that in Dubai. Oh, this is how we do it in Dubai. Oh, this is, and I'm thinking, man, that's like me saying this is how we did it in Cape Town where I'm from. It doesn't mean anything. Just because there is proximity, it doesn't mean that it will work. And for me, I don't have, and again, this is something I have to acknowledge, I don't have any other reference to the Middle East than Saudi. And I'm actually incredibly glad as a product person, this happened because it really forced me to try and understand the users here and the organizations and the way of operating, right? So yes, this is a big challenge. When When you as a product manager is going to work, you're going to get expats that come from other countries that has a bias. So this is how we do it in South Africa. You're going to get people that come from, and I mean, I'm not hating people from Dubai at all. That's not the point and the purpose. I'm saying that that's something that I hear quite a lot. And then also, you know, even the whole mental model and concept here is the Middle East, not Saudi Arabia. So that's a big challenge to move not just the local people, but also the expats coming in positions to the thinking of this is Saudi. And again, I am friends with people that work for vendors and consultants. I'm not saying any vendor consultant is bad, but there is a almost, I don't want to say, no, let me rephrase my words here.
Dependency is a good word, Francois.
There is a very high dependency
Be
on
careful,
external vendors. I know, Fadi. I know. Wallahi, I know.
Fadi is a consultant, everyone.
Fadi is a consultant. He works for PwC. He's working with us. There's a very high level of dependency on it, right? Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's a challenge. Because most of the places where I built product, my teams, yes, we use vendors, but we wanted internal capacity. We wanted our strategy to be actually done by our own business, not by a McKinsey or a BCG. And interestingly, not because I was involved in both of that, but both banks that I've worked, it started off with trying to get external people in, and then it transformed into get local people. In the current space that I'm in right now, and I know it's a recording and I'm not giving free props anywhere, but I know these guys and I work with them. WeBook is probably one of the most successful companies in Saudi Arabia as you speak right now. And part of their success was that they build locally, right? So again, I'm saying it is there. So if you want to be successful, understand that you might not change this, but I understand that you need to work with it. And that means that a lot of the things here is going to be remotely. A lot of things is not going to be in your hands, except that work with it, be successful around that, right? The other problem or challenge, not problem, is local limitations. And what do I mean by that? Man, I'm going to give you a very simple example. We work Sundays to Thursdays in Saudi, right? And when I got a job in Cape Town, you know, I was living and working in Cape Town. At that stage, the CEO of D360 said, "Yeah, you know, you have to move here and you have to live here." I said, "Cool." And then for 6 months before I could do it, you know, I had to tell my kids and my mom and my dad that I'm working Sundays to Thursday. Sundays typically in Western world is when, you know, we have our family day. And I said, that's the cost of this job. And why am I putting that as an example? There are certain limitations here, and that is good limitations. But if like in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, data privacy protection, there's certain, you know, your data is not allowed to move out of the kingdom. So when you build product, you know, these local limitations is a challenge if you have vendors or people coming in new that doesn't understand that, you could lose a lot of time, you can have a lot of waste around that. So that's a challenge, right? And it's a challenge that you cannot change, a challenge that you need to work with. And more practically in product world, for me, before I moved here and worked here, to implement an analytics product took maybe a few weeks, done. Now, again, it is in more regulated areas. There's just certain analytics that products that we cannot use because they move data out of the kingdom. Like you work in a regulated area, you can't do that. So you need to get solutions. So literally an analytic implementation that took 1 week everywhere else took a few months, right? So that's just a simple example. Then as well, if we say that we want to remove waste as product managers and we want to be focused, then one of the biggest challenges, there's just too much money at the moment, right? And again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but when you build product, right, you want to ensure that the probability of success is linked to the bets that you're making, linked to you know, focusedness. A strategy is that you try and cap the budget of what you want to do. I think, and again, it's not a bad thing, it's a challenge, but because money isn't a problem, you tend to be less efficient and effective and optimized in some of the thinkings as an organization, right? Then what happens is you become bloated. Then what happens is you add more people, you add more process, and before we know it, the effectiveness as a product manager trying to connect all of us, trying to really push product out there, doesn't happen. And also additionally, I think that comes up to almost, of course, it will be a success, right? Of course, whatever we build, a user will download. And I imagine the bigger the business, the more money they have. Of course, this product is going to take the market, right? And one of the big things of product management, what we want to do is we want to lower the probability that something will fail. And it's difficult to tap into that and explain to that if the people that you talk to almost have an initial standing point of success is given, don't worry, we've got money, why do we need to be effective and efficient, right? Even though they wouldn't say it, but that's kind of one of those things that's being put down there. And again, I just want to circle back. That comes right back to these points that I'm adding here. The challenges here, with everything that we see here, is to increase ROI, reduce risk, and it does become a problem when these two elements are
spending 3 billion on a software. It's
exactly.
hard.
Exactly. Cool. So that's that slide. Is there any questions relating to this before I move on to the next?
So I would say for the attendees here, what sort of challenges do we face as product people, not product environment, and how can we overcome? Compared to regions in where you come from, New York or South Africa, or the other continents.
Sorry, there was a hand up there. Sorry, I just saw a hand pop up.
Yeah, a hand did pop up. Okay. Oh, there's 2 hands now.
Yes. Okay. So just quickly read. So that could just rephrase. Can you just re-articulate that question again, please?
Okay. So you've worked in other countries.
Yeah.
You've worked in different product environments. You've seen
Yeah.
what sort of challenges other product people face in these different countries. What are we as Saudi people, you think are the biggest blockers for us to succeed in the product environment?
Yes. That let me give them. Let me get a quick minute to think about this.
That's fine. That's absolutely.
No, absolutely. And again, I cannot speak for the people of Saudi, but I think again, one of the biggest challenges is the combination of everything I said before, and actually, it's not really a Saudi challenge. It is a product management challenge as a whole. I haven't really observed any true challenges here in Saudi that I haven't seen anywhere else, except maybe these things that I mentioned right here. And I almost want to say, I would probably say the biggest challenge, and I mean, it's going to be, if you had to pick it, there's just too much money at the moment.
Yeah.
That doesn't drive effectiveness and efficiency, right? And again, I'm not going to say things are failures at all. I would never say that. But if we look at initiatives, right, if you start off knowing that it's $1 trillion government initiative, or you start off knowing that your investors are some of the richest people in the world, and they're willing to roll the dice on this, it kind of puts you in a position where the things we want to achieve in product, just those really tough decisions that you need to make, kind of falls away, right? So that's what I would raise. Also, on that point.
So do you mean autonomy, lack of autonomy?
No. Look, there's always going to be. I just think that one of the things is. So let me give you a very simple example. Let me maybe put in that. If somewhere in your organization is a Saudi person, your boss says do this, it is not even lack of autonomy, or there is enough budget to build it, and all the data, all the user studies, everything points to that you shouldn't be doing this. I think it's going to be very difficult to say to get that person to let go of it. Now, in South Africa, because we don't have that much money and there's a challenge or whatever, if I make an argument like that, people would be more open to listen to that, because they would know that, and again, this comes to something else, that we don't have the cost to cover a clear bad bet, right? And I think that is maybe one of the things that I see here. Now, most of these other problems, I mean, I was thinking about doing this and I didn't do it, but go on to Reddit. There's a product management channel there. Man, I actually read that sometimes when I get very, very negative, to realize that the problems I'm facing isn't just my problems, it's across the world almost the same. So that's what I would say. I don't know, I think this is a good point. Let's do some questions.
Okay.
Are we looking for time as well?
Time is good.
Excellent.
We do have Nof Jabir, please come forward.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Francois, for this amazing discussion. So I think there is some issue that we have all in the product management and all the products implementations, which is the usual and regular changes that sometimes affect all the plans, which already prepared and already started. So in this situation, what are the best ways to prevent it first, and then do, let's say, the first act that will solve it?
Okay, so Noaf, thank you for your question. I appreciate you asking that. My answer is going to be this: you cannot prevent it. There's no way to prevent any of these changes happening, right? And it's very difficult because, again, coming back to what I said right here, and I'm gonna do this, and I want to zoom in. Randomness, disorder, and uncertainty is part of our lives, right? So we cannot prevent it. What we can do is ensure that the impact of this doesn't allow expensive mistakes to happen, right? That's the first thing. And how do you do that? And I mean, this is maybe moving more to the next section of the tips, but how do you do that? One, you ensure that there is a high level of transparency in everything that you do. There's a high level of communication in what you do. And when you use those two things, it helps your team to understand and know that you're in a dynamic place where things will change and it's okay to change, right? However, it's not okay, and this is kind of the other part of this, is to sit back and say, because everything is going to change, I don't need to do proper testing, I don't need to do proper code reviews, I don't need to do proper analysis, I don't need to do proper thinking of this, right? That's not the scapegoat. In actual fact, due to this change, there's a discipline element to it. You need to be extremely disciplined, right? Make sure that everything you do has got some form of traceability, some form of data-driven decision, and that if you change something, you understand and you can relate the impact of that change. Does that answer your question, Noor?
Yeah, exactly, to the point. So there is no prevention, but let's say be dynamic within the situation.
And accept that, right? You need to, as wherever a product team is, the first conversation you need to have with guys. And I'm going to take this to when I was a product manager around a sprint. I'm like, guys, the only thing I can guarantee you is that within this sprint, we won't maybe change the scope. And I can guarantee you that if the business comes in right now and there's something so incredibly critical that means this company is going to go bankrupt, we will have to do that work. So understand that we're doing our best to lock down a piece of work for predictability, to lock down a piece of work to ensure you can get focused. but also understanding that our job could be working technology, and because the market is dynamic, is that they could jump at things that will stop us from moving forward, or that we need to change. Cool. Next is another question. Let me just go back to this. I don't know. I'm just checking the chats here. No.
We can take the chats later, just so
Sure.
we can.
Perfect. Excellent. So my tips and suggestions, and to help with specifically with the challenge of product management within the kingdom. And this is kind of almost like, you read my mind here. We just need to understand and accept the good and the bad from the beginning, right? We cannot change it. We need to understand and accept it. Not just in product management, but also of the challenges and the limitations. And again, it doesn't give us a get out of jail card free, but that's one of the first things, because once you understand and accept it, you start putting strategies and processes and thinking in place to help you with that. The other thing is more predominantly is, if product management, and not if product management is the glue between all those things, you need to find ways to have the conversations happen that is needed, right? And that's very, very difficult, but to do that, but that means is, if you need to get requirements or need to understand what an area of the business is doing, you don't have access to that, you need to find a way through, and I'm almost creative ways, either through maybe your manager, maybe through somebody that you know, maybe through, I don't want to say bribery, but free coffee or something, to get into an area of the business, to have that conversation to happen, right? And it's going to be the same thing with your users, right? You need to find ways to talk to them, right? You cannot just sit back and I think, I mean, I've done with a few guys user testing here. I mean, in-person user testing at some malls, and it was very simple. You cannot, I mean, there is some level of, I cannot just walk up to random females at a mall to talk to them. I cannot, if my user testing guy is a male, I need to pair with a female. All of these little subtle things is not things that is done out of disrespect or things done out of challenges. It is finding a way to make the conversation happen as it is needed in that stage, right? Something else that I normally do with organizations and businesses, the first month, I just randomly walk through the offices, see where people sit, see who the people are. And that gives you the opportunity and ability to kind of get to know the business, instead of just sitting in, if you're in IT, in your little IT area. And that allows you to find a way to make the conversations happen. And that also builds trust. And that also puts you in a position where you are not just part of a single area, right? But you are kind of moving between the different areas. And then my other tip here is specifically linked to the challenges of bridging those challenges. Use data. And I would almost force to say in Saudi here, whatever data you have, be it user data, well, I mean, I'm not going to go through the list of data, but yeah, whatever you think you have, think about getting more here, because of the fact that there's almost a expectation of things being done, and almost a belief that this is what you need to do. The more data you have, the more you can drive that conversation, the more you can move it into the space where the opinion is removed. And again, I want to almost go back to these things here, right? Use that data to filter the noise and to reduce waste, right? Use that data to increase the probability of success, right? And then lastly, on my tips here, do not be overly attached to perfection. In actual fact, perfection is probably going to stand in the way of progress for you as a product manager, right? This is very important. And most often than not, your answer is going to be some hybrid of something, right? It's, I mean, even the organization where I work now, I say, guys, we're a water scrum fall organization, right? The requirements, the build, before the build, the requirements were done in a very waterfall way. The build of the product is maybe a more scrum way, and then the testing release will be a more rigid fall, the waterfall way. So it's a water scrum fall, and that's fine, right? But understand that the answer that you're looking for will be hybrid, but also, and I mean, this is a challenge for the younger people on the call. Understand what you can give away and understand what you cannot give away, right? And what you cannot give away is the fact that and again, coming back to my definition of product or the wide definition of product, the fact that you are sitting between these three very important areas and you need to provide the balance of that. So these are my tips and suggestions on a very high level. I'm not gonna go into, and I mean, this is linked to the first few slides. Are there any questions before I move on to the next?
We can move on, and this is for time. We can take questions at the end.
Sure. Okay, cool. So here is my tips, as mentioned, that I want to put down to you guys, right? And these tips, maybe some of you guys know it. These are things that really helped me, Francois, in my career. I will zoom into each area and I talk through it. And again, this is not the full extent of everything that I know. However, this really shaped myself as a product guy, and it really helped me. So the first thing I want to zoom in on here, man, and this is probably the single most important thing that helped me become a better product person, is the lean product canvas, right? And the important thing of the lean product canvas, I use it to reverse engineer things. I use it as a base when I start forward. It takes, in a very simple way, you through asking the questions right up front of what you want to ask and start positioning your product right in a way. Now, also this lean product canvas is, if we do it the first time, it is done in a specific order: customer segment, problem, existing alternatives, unique value or high level solution. So you jump around this, you can Google that order. But this lean product canvas is probably the easiest and simplest way to quickly put down a product positioning. It's probably the easiest, simplest way to quickly try and understand, if you join a new organization, what that product does and how the organization looks. And also it is the key to one of the most important things that we do, and that's product market fit. So effectively, and I mean, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Can you see my cursor? If I could draw a line here in the middle, this side is the market, this side is the product. And if you want to take, I normally print this out and put it on walls with information. If you want to take this page and you fold it off, it is product market fit, put down in one easy view to understand. Again, I'm not going to go through this. I would encourage everyone on this call to Google and to read. While ChatGPT is now the in thing, use ChatGPT as well. But this, to me, is the most single important thing that made me a better product manager. And to this day, I still use this. And I might be giving my secret sauce away here, but that's fine. This is very simple. And ironically, and I'm giving you a heads up, when you talk to the business, the thing that people tend to answer you the least on is the cost structure and the revenue stream. So I'm giving you a heads up. That's a very important thing that most people struggle to answer you. There, I call it the 1-to-1-to principle that helps me. Let me just zoom in. So that typically is a mental model of, if you got a product feature or specifically something in product, let's use a product feature. And you cannot take that, and you take that feature and you cannot pull it to one business metric and one user persona, then most probably don't even do that feature, right? And in the inverse, if you have one product feature and you get it pulled to 10 different user personas and 10 different business metrics, don't do that feature, because then it's convoluted. And this I don't know, I might put this in a book. This is something that just I use very effectively. Is I take business metric, this product feature with my user and say, cool, one-to-one, what else? And then typically people tend to have a conversation, and if they cannot identify a clear business metric, kill it immediately. That really helped me. The next thing in my career, that really helped me, is the prioritization is king. So there's a few prioritization frameworks that I always use. Impact versus cost, very simple. That is almost a low impact, high cost endeavor. Also, what I would like to encourage the product people is don't use a prioritization framework to prioritize user stories. Use it for meetings, what meeting you should take or not take. Use it around your time. I also like the Eisenhower matrix. Again, you can Google this. Urgency versus importance. I also like to use cost of delay as a way around the conversation point. And then the Moscow is probably one of the simplest, but one of the most effective. But if I had to pick one that I've probably defined or helped me the most, it is impact versus cost. Then now we're getting a little bit more into some of the things you might not. Okay, now let me rather go to this one. This also was one of the most, and this is a screenshot by Humanizing Work. When I look at work breakdown as a product manager, or even now as a director, specifically around your user stories, that's always difficult, right? Because at the core, if we work in an agile environment, either need at the core your user story is the way that you as a product manager need to translate the effort of work to your team. And I use this invest principle. Now, again, I don't want us to be dogmatic in our thinking and approach here. It is very difficult to get everything done to get every user story in this invest principle. And let me just quickly run. So it's independable, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. You need to try and get your user stories graphed in that way to run through the vertical stack rather than the horizontal stack, right? Because we want to ship, and the only way to ship is if you hit your vertical stack as important. If you hit your vertical stack, if you had to make a trade-off and prioritize, try and always get your work estimatable, small, and testable. Everything that you do there. And then as well, something else very important is how to split user stories. Again, Google these guys, this framework. I think I saw this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 2011. I think it was 2011, give or take. Man, this has really helped me because there's multiple different strategies to split your user story. And sometimes it is very difficult to do that. But that's also part of our job as product managers, is to try and get that small piece that your team can work on to deliver. So that's a little bit more for the younger guys here who's in it. This has really helped me. This is something I still use in my career. And then there's other things, I guess. That's a little bit more Francois. And that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias where people with low ability in a task tend to overestimate their skill, while those with high ability may underestimate it. And I'm going to be very honest. You guys knew about 20 minutes before this talk. I just quickly checked it. I'm like, man, I was sitting here and I'm thinking, I don't want to do this talk. I'm questioning if anybody would really want to listen to me. I'm questioning if this content is good. Do I even have the skill to do this? And there's a lot of things in that, but I think as product managers, I would rather question myself than go blissfully unaware that due to low ability, I think I overestimate whatever I'm doing. And sadly, There's a lot of people that does that. And again, this comes back to something very important I want to give to you guys is you should be retrospecting yourself every day. Every day. And normally that is in traffic. And alhamdulillah, we've got so much traffic in Riyadh that it allows me 45 minutes of thinking. But I literally ask myself, have I Dunning-Krugered myself today? Did I listen? Did I overestimate my ability here? Right? Did I miss a skill? And that's I think is very important. And also understand that the people you're going to work with, they might overestimate themselves and not know it. Don't get frustrated. Don't get angry. Don't understand that is part of the game. Then decision making is very important to me as well. So there's a decision-making framework that I like to use. It's called the URA loop. Again, Google this, get more information. I'm just dropping you this, but effectively this is from military strategy, and what it is it's a loop of decision-making. What you want to do is you want to iterate through this loop quicker, and typically the person iterating through this quicker will have more opportunity of success. That is observe, see where you are, orientate, decide and act. And you want to run through this loop as quickly as possible, iteratively, to get to the answer. And the one loop feeds into the next loop, feeds into the next loop, feeds into the next loop, and that's help you making decisions, right? So that's also something that I think is very important. That's something that I use in my career. And then Occam's razor. This is a problem-solving principle. So effectively, I'm giving you a cognitive basis framework. So again, find the cognitive basis that you want to adhere to. I'm giving you a decision-making framework. You need to make decisions as a program manager, and I'm giving you a problem-solving principle. And this, man, this is actually, I wouldn't say saved my career many times, but saved myself many times. And as simple as it is, Occam's razor says, the simplest explanation for something is usually the correct one. And again, start off, I would encourage people to start off with that. So, and then the last thing here is, and I'm going to be very honest, part of what we do is talk a lot. I mean, I think I've been talking for over an hour. And ironically, I hate my own voice. Part of what we also do is presenting, which we're doing right now. And irrespective if you want to be in product or not, if you're in technology, if you're in this space, invest in presentation and data visualization skills. Read up on color theory. Read up on, there's a reason why I took Miro tonight rather than a PowerPoint. Ironically, all of this wasn't a PowerPoint, and I ran through it. I'm like, man, I want to zoom in. I want to change. I want to, jump around. I want to lose in a PowerPoint there. So go into that, read up on, I mean, there's so many books on presentations. Spend time on it. If your company is giving you budget for training, I would strongly encourage each person in here to make sure your first course that they pay for is in presentation and data visualization. Because as a product person, 99% of the things that you're going to do is going to be around that. And also, this is something where I really struggle with. I've got quite a loud voice. I've got quite a weird accent. It took me a long time to get better at even talking online, right? And I think that's the important thing is if you're going to be with people, invest in a good microphone, invest in all of that, because you're going to spend most of your career, it seems, online. So make sure. So that is my tips. And then the last thing that I want to leave you guys with. Product is walked, not talked. What do I mean by that? Even though we're talkers and storytellers at heart, whatever we do here is through example, right? And please, everybody, understand the importance of your role. You are part of shaping this very big, accountable, responsible area, right? That's the newest area. As you work with it, you are busy shaping it, right? And do not underestimate what you are doing as a current leader, in your area, in your team, and do not underestimate for the younger people what you're gonna do as a current leader, a product leader in it. And I would encourage you to lead through example. So again, if part of product is to prioritize, make sure you prioritize properly your own time, right? If product's about making good decisions, make sure you retrospect your decisions, right? And again, in organizations with the complexity, with the challenges, make sure that you lead that through example. It is walked, not talked. So that is me. I do want to thank everybody for listening to me. I think it took way longer than what we anticipated. I did say, Noah, please kick me off if it's going too long. I would really like to, if there's time, I would really like to maybe get some questions and get some thinking back. Also, afterwards, maybe I'll set up a form. I should have added, I'll set up a form where maybe I could get some feedback. Again, I want to walk it and not talk it. Feedback from each one of you guys to give me some feedback on what you liked, what you didn't like, right? So I can learn and be better. I will liaise with Noaf and Sadim and Haytham afterwards for you to maybe fill it out. We do have the emails of the people that was on the call out. We can share it afterwards, something like that. So yeah, please, is there any questions? Is there anything we want to talk about here?
Okay, so again, unfair advantage, Francois, let me start, okay? In Saudi Arabia, as you know, it's very competitive to get into product. There's so many people that are experts, they have the skill set, they have the experience, they've done the product, they never had the title.
Yeah.
It might not be an unfair question to you, but let me ask it regardless. For those kind of people, what do you advise them to do in order to get into products?
Man, there is no easy way to get into product, right? That's one of the interesting things. And I think, let me give you an answer by something that I saw here. I got into product just by luck and by fluke, right? Now, again, that could be an answer. Or maybe I got drawn to that area because that is where, you know, my brain went, my reason for being in the industry went. I think there is no simple way to get into it. What you have to do is you will have to work hard to try and find opportunities and campaign and see where it is. And very simple, if you're doing certain product work as a business analyst, for example, and you should be called a product manager, I don't want to say lie on your CV, but call yourself a product manager on your CV, right? As simple as that. And then also, maybe that organization is not for you, because one of the things with product leaders is that you should be able to identify good product talent and give them the opportunity to get to there. Like I said at the beginning, the team succeeds, it's you. It's not you, it's the team. The team fails, it's you. So as a product leader, as a head of product, the chief product officer, if you cannot identify that this person should have a title, right, then maybe, you shouldn't be there. And you need to find a organization where they will value that, right? And I've actually promoted within from many times. In actual fact, I'm not going to name names, but at one of the banks where I was head of product here, I promoted a business analyst to be a senior product manager. And that guy has...
Not even a product, but a senior product manager.
Sorry?
And not even a product, but a senior product manager. Okay.
I took him. And that guy, right, because he was doing the work anyway, right? And I think that's the thing. There's that, guys, it's not always about the title, right? I understand it is about the title sometimes, but if an organization is not valuing you, there's nothing you can do about it. Try and campaign. I'm not telling everybody to quit their jobs. Try and campaign, trying to change, trying to influence, which should come naturally. But it's okay. Find some place where you will be, and put it down on your CV. If you did product work, you did product work. Simple as that. Cool.
We will have to conclude today. No questions did come through, and today was a very insightful talk from you, Francois, from the perspective of an expert.
There's a hand.
There's a hand. We'll take go on. Final hand, then we'll close off.
Yes, please. Thank you so much for this session. I have a question. I see you have worked across multiple industries.
Yes.
So how has that diversity of experience influenced your approach to product management? And that's my question. Thank you.
So, excellent question. Thank you for asking that. I think I actually made a note and I forgot about that. So it's maybe a reason I get this question. Product management is one of the few, because we don't really sit or shouldn't sit in a specific business area. Like I said, we're in the middle of business, the user and technology. It's one of the few industries where you can actually jump between organizations, right? So that's the first thing, right? Which is really a plus.
Yeah.
How has that shaped me? It shaped me in two disciplines. One, I've realized that my skills as a product manager can be transferable, working for a bank, working for fintech, working in entertainment, working for payment company, right? That's the first thing. So that really helped me understand that some of the skills that I have, I need to really sharpen it and hone it because it is transferable. And the other thing that I realized from jumping in more on the high level is each industry that you jump, even though your skills are transferable, your approach is a little bit different, right? The way I talk to a chief compliance officer at a bank is different than the way I approach or talk to, let's say, the chief compliance officer at an investment bank, right? Even in banking, or at our chief risk officer, as an example, in entertainment, right? And I think that is one of the things that really helped me is I can take my skills, but I have to understand that my skills have to be sharp all the time, and that my words, thinking, and approach can change for that industry, right? And then lastly, on that, I think one of the things that I've also realized is that generally we as people and users, we've got a lot more in common than what we don't have in common, right? Even in industries, and that really helps you that if you've got a recipe of approach, you can refine it and get better at it, irrespective of where you are.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Francois, and thank you all attendees for coming today and giving the speaker time to share his very, very valuable insight. But today, the session has ended, and we will see you all in the next one next week. Goodbye, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, North. Thanks, Sadim, Aitham. I appreciate it, guys.